Join the conversation. Call Buck toll-free at 844-900-BUCK. That's 844-900-2825. The future of talk radio. Buck Sexton.
Hey, it is America Now with Buck Sexton. Bryan filling in. My home base is KFI in Los Angeles, where many of you in the South will be happy to hear that I am suffering along with the rest of you. When I left my house this morning, around 11 in the morning, it was 59 degrees Fahrenheit. And yes, I bundled up. So believe me, I am walking a kilometer in your shoes. Over the next 3 hours, the Bannon bus is leaving, and he's under it at this point. More on Iran and ICE getting sued for, asking about illegal immigrants. Imagine that. Doing their job, they're getting sued for it. And also, before I go down a limb, Buck Sexton is back for vacation tomorrow, or am I just pulling that out of my... He is back tomorrow, all right. So your long national nightmare is over. Buck Sexton will be back tomorrow, and I will go my own way. I host America's premier counter-terror and things that go pew-pew show called The Dark Secret Place at KFI here in Los Angeles. You can follow me on Twitter at Dark Secret Place, And if we get, in the course of the next 3 hours, the Gemtech suppressor company, what Hollywood calls a silencer, the Gemtech suppressor company is trying to get over 5,000 Twitter followers. They only have about 100 to go, and I'll retweet their address. But if we can get them over the top, they are going to start giving away swag. So we always like swag, especially from logos of companies that make people very uncomfortable, and Gemtech is definitely one of those. Well, so, and by the way, we'll take phone calls later on. I know that a whole bunch of America Now with Buck Sexton markets are in the Southeast, and I got to tell you, I'm looking at this temperature map, and you have my sympathy for folks that are very unaccustomed to cold weather. You're not getting 51 and 45, you're getting 14 degrees. And that is, that's some Alaska stuff. That's like Alaska in July. You're legit getting some very, very, very cold weather. So you don't have to suffer any mocking from people in Wisconsin. I mean, you're really, truly getting cold weather. There's some viral video today of northern Florida and some kid running around in the first snow he's ever seen in his life. And it's a great video. It's hilarious. It's almost as funny as those dogs running through snow video. But so anyway, that storm is hitting as we speak. And we'll take some of your phone calls and trade. Here's two things I've thought of. What do you do, especially on a Wednesday, knowing full well, and let's just be honest here, you're all going to call in sick or whatever. You're going to call a snow day tomorrow for your work. Of course, unless you're a fireman or police or, whatever. But for most of you, if your town doesn't get snow consistently in the winter, you're not ready for this. No one knows how to drive in it. You know darn well that you can, at minimum, you can buy yourself 4 hours of sleeping in tomorrow. And one of the best things about a snowstorm is the sleeping in part. You leave the window, you leave the curtains open, the snow's coming down, you sleep in, and you feel absolutely no need to wake up. It's kind of like when it's rainy, what your dogs do. Your dogs are just lazy lumps. Same with snow and humans. So what I'm telling you, as a long-time experience, as someone from the Pacific Northwest of the United States, it's a long-standing tradition to find an excuse to not go to work when there's more than half a foot of snow. And some of the common accepted ones are, I've got rear wheel drive and there were no chains left at AutoZone or Pep Boys or whatever. By the way, if you have military ID, it's 10% off at Pep Boys. And that's not a paid endorsement. I'm just saying that's why I go there. So that's a good one. But then again, who has only rear wheel drive these days? That's the problem. But maybe your boss doesn't know. Now, Try it. The 4-hour excuse, that's a gimme. They haven't plowed my road. That's the easiest one. So for all of you in the South that don't have these excuses in your muscle memory, be the first to use that. And here's a great way to go on that. Leave a message with your boss or first line supervisor around 6 a.m. because this shows good faith. This shows due diligence. You get up at 6 a.m. or you roll over, you grab your phone, and you say, "Hey, I'm just giving you a heads up. I'm doing my part. I'm sweating like a pig out here, but they haven't plowed my road yet. I have a neighbor who's got a implement, and he's going to try to do the road so we can get down on, whatever, on Nathan Bedford Forest Avenue or whatever. I believe that's a main street, I think, in most of Mississippi. And so anyway, that's a good one. It's a really good one. So for you folks in the South who are seeing, as you are maybe getting up and getting in the car on the way to work, as you see your transplant friends from the North, from Massachusetts, from Wisconsin, who have moved south for the weather, as you see that they're still sleeping in, you have to ask yourself, what do they know that I don't know? Well, that's what they know. They know how to do the setup, the 6 a.m. message. I got up early for this, and I knew this was going to happen, and I've got that big hand deal that I got to ink today, but they haven't plowed my main road yet, so, stand by. That's the way to go. But if you call up and say, "Oh, this snow is aggravating my pelvic tilt," even the dimmest boss is going to see through that. So we can trade some of those a little later on. Also, recipes, cold weather recipes, and don't just say chili. I mean, it's got to be chili with something else. It's got to be like catfish chili or whatever. And then, of course, my favorite: what are the best cold weather drinks? They're not always warm drinks. They're not always drinks that are heated up. Sometimes a really cold drink is great for a cold weather day. So we'll trade some of those. If you want to get on Twitter, and I'll create a hashtag. I'll tweet that out, like hashtag things to do in the South on a snowy day or something like that. Or if you want to call 844-900-BUCK, 844-900-BUCK, we'll take your calls. When we come back, the bus gets backed up, Steve Bannon thrown in front of it, and run over. And that's right after Bannon backed his bus up and threw Trump under it. So the day in bus versus White House collisions, that and more coming up. It's Bryan Seats filling in for Buck Sexton. You've got America Now.
Entrepreneurs, business owners, professionals, go to Abraham.com/50shades. 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 No opt-in required. Sells absolutely nothing. Gives away over 800 hours of priceless strategic marketing and business growth expertise. Videos, audios, full-length best-selling books, interviews of legendary business icons. Abraham.com/50shades. Abraham.com/50shades.
How's that kitchen remodel coming along?
I haven't found a reliable contractor and have no idea where to start.
What about Home Advisor?
Home what?
Home Advisor. They match you to pre-screened and top-rated pros for any kind of home project. You can even check pricing and book appointments online.
What's the catch?
No catch. Home Advisor is completely free to use.
Really? I'll check it out. Go to HomeAdvisor.com or download the free app. Home Advisor. Message and data rates may apply.
Do you feel like you're in control of your future? If not, Arizona State University can help. Earning a degree can open doors to new opportunities. And with ASU Online, you can earn a degree that employers respect without having to disrupt your life. You'll learn from the same campus-based faculty and get the same world-class education as campus-based students from wherever life needs you to be. Find out why U.S. News & World Report ranks ASU in the top 1% in the nation for online bachelor's degrees. Text STUDY to 37913. Through continued research and innovation, every ASU online course has been designed to ensure student success. It's one of the reasons Arizona State University was named #1 for innovation ahead of Stanford and MIT for a third year in a row. So take control of your future today by earning a world-class education from one of the nation's top universities. For more information, text STUDY to 37913.
Stay focused on your goal for 2018 while using that new toy.
Alexa, play iHeartRadio Spin Cycle.
iHeartRadio has stations and playlists perfect for your workout. 24-hour cardio mix, hip-hop workout radio, club jam country, plus playlists like rock workout, electronic dance workout, and more. Let iHeartRadio help you succeed in 2018. All your favorite music, all your favorite stations, all free.
We'll be back tomorrow, finishing up his vacation. Well, it was an ugly day for the bus that the Trump administration drove into Washington, D.C., and many would say that the driver of that bus was there at the end, Steve Bannon. He took over, some say, for Paul Manafort, who took over for other forgotten bus drivers. But today, the bus was backed up and driven over Steve Bannon, because Steve Bannon, it was released, is a contributor, or rather an interview subject for a book coming out called Fire and Fury. And what we get out of this is a fiery denunciation by Steve Bannon of the Trump offspring. Also a denunciation of this now publicly acknowledged meeting with the Russians between Don Jr. And the leaks clearly struck a nerve with Donald Trump, and he released a statement. So real quickly, let's bring on board Michael Goodwin, New York Post columnist and Fox News contributor. And I know you have a piece coming out on this. First of all, before I read this to the audience, many of whom are at work today, because they have real jobs, unlike us, and they didn't see this. Well, when you saw the White House statement, what was your initial reaction?
Well, I thought that Trump was certainly within his rights, and I was not surprised that he unloaded on Bannon the way he did. I mean, Bannon has repeatedly gone after the Trump White House, people around the president. It's pretty clear that Bannon was the source of some leaks. And I think this interview, whenever he gave it, I mean, that's a curiosity in my mind at this point. Was he still in the White House when he gave this interview? But as you mentioned, he talked about the Don Jr. meeting at Trump Tower as treasonous. He accused, seems to be the Kushners of money laundering. And he said some very unkind things about the president recently. So I don't understand Bannon's approach to any of this. I mean, last we heard from him, he was going to be running candidates, from the outside the establishment, the Roy Moore type campaign. He'd already burned his bridges with Mitch McConnell. Now he seems to have burned his bridges with the president as well. I'm not sure what kind of mission he's on, who he thinks his audience is at this point. I mean, I think the president was at the end of the day his biggest audience and his most reliable one. I think the president stuck with him long after many others would have, given some of the things that Bannon said and did. So at this point, I don't know what Bannon stands for, who his target audience is, who does he think is going to support his candidates. He seems to have just put himself on an island here, and he looks to be way over his skis here.
Well, for people who haven't heard the White House statement yet today, this is after the release of quotes of Steve Bannon in regards to his time in the White House. The president released the following statement, quote, "Steve Bannon has nothing to do with me or my presidency. When he was fired, he not only lost his job, he lost his mind. Steve was a staffer who worked for me after I had already won the nomination by defeating 17 candidates, often described as the most talented field ever assembled in the Republican Party. Now that he is on his own, Steve is learning that winning isn't as easy as I make it look. Steve had very little to do with our historic victory, which was delivered by the forgotten men and women of this country. Yet Steve had everything to do with the loss of a Senate seat in Alabama held for more than 30 years by Republicans. Steve doesn't represent my base. He's only in it for himself. Steve pretends to be at war with the media, which he calls the opposition party, yet he spent his time at the White House leaking false information to the media to make himself seem far more important than he was. It is the only thing he does well. Steve was rarely in a one-on-one meeting with me and only pretends to have had influence to fool a few people with no access and no clue, whom he helped write phony books. Then he wraps up. But, ouch.
Yes.
Yeah, and he says staffer. That's the ultimate insult in D.C., but everyone knows he wasn't a staffer, but he says staffer. So does Bannon sound like he is a guy who should probably be sitting down with Robert Mueller's team and getting deposed?
Well, it certainly sounds like that he's inviting that, isn't it, by making those charges. Now, look, I have to say, I thought Bannon really did bring something to the table. I think his focus on the working class, his sort of America First thing was both a good fit with Trump, and I think he brought some original ideas to it. But none of this makes any sense now. This is not, I think, about politics. This is some kind of an explosion of a personal nature, which I can't fathom. But I think the president, if his words mean anything today, has permanently severed any ties with Bannon. And I think that puts Bannon, as I say, on an island by himself, because it already burnt all his bridges with the establishment Republicans. People criticized Trump for taking him on at the time. I thought some of those charges were unfair, but there's no way to defend Bannon today. I mean, what he has done, I think, is the ultimate act of disloyalty, and that's got to mean something in politics. Whatever his relationship with the Trump family, he worked it. He was privileged to work for the people of the United States in the White House, and he seems to have just thrown all that overboard in a fit of pique. So I think he may want to talk to Mueller, and I'm sure Mueller will be happy to talk to him, and I'm sure a lot of liberal journalists will be happy to talk to him too if he's going to unload on the Trump family.
And also, he was talking specifically about that Don Jr. meeting with the Russians in 2015 or 2016, and Bannon says there's just not a scenario on earth where after that meeting, Don Jr. doesn't say, hey, let's run upstairs and meet my dad, and that he actually takes these Russians up there to meet with Donald Trump, who everyone has vehemently denied that President Trump met with them. So would he say something like that if he didn't know that was true or that he was flat out lying?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer. I don't know if Bannon is a liar. I don't know that anyone has accused or has said what happened next, that they went upstairs and met then the candidate. I don't know that he was even in the building at the time. But look, Bannon has now made this charge, and as you rightly note, it's a significant charge. I think the president it's going to come up at the next press conference. White House press secretary is going to have to answer that question. I would be surprised if the answer is anything other than absolutely not. The president never met any of those people, or that the lawyer, the promoter, or the others who were at that meeting. So, but look, Bannon has opened the door, and I think he is. I don't think Bannon's crazy. I think he's crazy like a fox in some ways. I think he decided to do this today, or whenever he did this interview. He was knowing what he was doing. I don't think this is just like some explosion of anger. I think when you sit down for an interview with somebody who's writing a book, you have at least thought through the general outlines of what you're willing to say. So I think Bannon went to that interview intending to say all or most of these things about the president.
And also, I mean, final question in terms of long-term impact. The thing that I've detected over the past year is that 2016 was no different than any other election. Slightly more Americans who maybe were not politicized before. President Obama, I think, came and made a statement in 2016, and then they went back to their lives, and they frankly don't pay attention to the day-to-day crap. I think the media we have convinced ourselves that we are more relevant than we really are, and I think that the critical mass of people that elected Donald Trump, frankly, are not paying attention to this stuff.
Well, that could be. I think you're right. This is not something that's going to be the talk of dinner tables across America tonight. On the other hand, I do think there is a significant audience for these things, and I think in the era of Trump, that audience has grown. I think more people are paying attention to politics. More people are paying attention, both because they like Donald Trump and they dislike Donald Trump. So I think that Trump is so much of a magnet and as I say, the straw that stirs the drink, that more people will hear of this than would if it were another president.
All right, Michael Goodwin, a contributor to Fox News and New York Post. Your piece is out. I'll retweet a link to your latest piece. We're out of time, but thanks for joining us here on short notice.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Terrific. Thank you very much. All right, we'll be back in just a second. Also, 844-900-BUCK. 844-900-BUCK. Get on the phone to get on the air with your thoughts. Bryan Suits filling in on America Now with Buck Sexton.
Other shows just talk at you. In the Freedom Hut, we have a mission. We fight for the truth in a team effort. Roger. And Buck is back with our next play. All right, here's
The Buck Sexton Show. I said the Buck Sexton Show. The Buck Sexton Show. Bryan Suits filling in. Buck will be off vacation back tomorrow. So all will be well, and just in time for you all to curl up and sit by the radio all day. There in the south, and I'm looking at the cold map, and I guess right about now it goes from eastern Texas to northern Florida, dipping down. Apparently, going to dip down into single digits in some places in Georgia and Alabama. So that's well, you have my sympathy. That's all I can tell you. Then it turns north and goes up the East Coast, at which point it dominates the news for the next 5 days because, of course, if bad weather hits whatever within 100 miles of New York, that becomes the news. Well, the civil war between Steve Bannon and Donald Trump that kicked off today, of course, created a record-setting perfect storm of media kerfuffle. And here with a montage, courtesy of Ty, the engineer, is what we call cut one.
Never have we seen a man whose profound sexual and masculine insecurities are literally threatening to annihilate the planet. I mean, the way he's literally capitalizing in that tweet his nuclear button. Any psychiatrist or psychologist would have a field day with that, but we all live in a world that could literally be ended in terms of a habitable planet because of this sad man's insecurity.
We have two maniacs with nuclear warheads bragging about who has the bigger butt.
And it's all about who's got the bigger butt.
Oh, yeah.
Who's got the bigger butt?
Trump needs to be medicated and hospitalized at this point, or he is going to just kill all of us.
There's just still connection to normalcy here. He's being cavalier in a way that makes him seem demented and deranged and makes no serious of our serious allies.
Madness.
And I think we should start to call it that, shouldn't we? I've asked Twitter spokesman, does this violate Twitter's terms of service, making this kind of threat toward North Korea? So far, no immediate comment from the company. Still waiting to hear. I think they're trying to decide if this kind of tweet, referring to a nuclear button that he knows how to use and it works, whether that actually is a violation of the terms of service because it may threaten violence.
Yeah, what a bunch of panties in a bunch there. And this is, obviously in reaction, because we had a whole bunch of objectionable tweets that got the media into a tizzy today, and they were still reacting to yesterday's tweet in response to the New Year's Day message by Kim Jong-un. And on New Year's Day, Kim Jong-un actually said two things. First, a lot of the media are head faked, and they're talking about the Olympics. But what Kim Jong-un said, and now I'm sorry about this, Joy Behar, but regardless of what you think about Trump's tweet or the guy caterwauling about a violent threat, there's no violent threat in Trump's tweet about a nuclear button. However, on January 1st, Kim Jong-un said that he now has a fully nuclear deterrent, meaning that the bomb they've been testing is now festooning his missile, his ICBM that can reach anywhere in North America. And he stated on New Year's Day, we now have a nuclear deterrent. If the United States tests us, we will nuke them, and we are going to be festooning his missile, his ICBM that can reach anywhere in North America. And he stated on New Year's Day, we now have a nuclear deterrent. He might be doing that just to make us think, well, what if we're wrong? What if we attack him and it turns out he was right, that he really had weaponized his ICBM? So he might be gambling that way. But if he did, he's writing a big check with his mouth, and he said, that's it. This is my deterrent. You can't attack me or I will nuke you. So we now have unquestionably different kind of leader in North Korea. I wouldn't call him unstable because the guy gets what he wants done. But the focus is on Trump's tweet about, well, you might have a nuclear button, but mine's bigger and mine works. But what Kim Jong-un said, well, he didn't use the exact Korean word for button, but he said, I have a nuclear deterrent and the button is always with me. It's on my desk. Now, here's the deal. In an absolute monarchy like North Korea, there's no redundancy. There's no, I'm sure that there's no plan B in case the leadership is decapitated, that in all probability, launch authority rests with Kim Jong-un and Kim Jong-un only. It's not like the United States system, where if there's a decapitation strike, there's an immediate transfer of power to the vice president, and then the Speaker of the House and Secretary of the State, the whole thing. There was even something like that in the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union was very practical about their nuclear launch authority process, just like we were. And so if you're a dictatorship, an absolute monarchy with absolute power, you wouldn't sit there and devolve power to a bus driver or something in another province. So he probably is telling the truth. The button, the launch authority, probably is him picking up a phone. Trump is wrong. There's no button. And by the way, he's not the first. He wasn't the one who was saying that. It was all the people who hate Trump last year saying, would you trust this guy with a button? Here's the deal. Launch authority for an American nuclear strike, either a retaliatory strike or a first strike, a preemptive strike. It is not as simple as the president turning to a guy in uniform saying, release the Kraken. It's not like that. And there's not a button. There's a process. And I got news for you. If the Secretary of Defense, if President Mattis is not in the loop, if he doesn't concur, the launch order doesn't go. A president of the United States by himself cannot simply give that order. He has to bounce it off the Secretary of Defense. That's part of the launch authority process, that they both have to concur that they're talking to each other. They do that with codes that are changed daily. The president carries with him, and President Mattis carries with him as well. The nuclear football, it's not like there's not a laptop in there that they flip open and then he presses a red button. That is a book that has prior approved nuclear plans and scenarios. It has codes, it has procedures. It weighs 30 pounds for a reason. It's a bunch of 3-ring binders. There's nothing in there where the guy holds out a little miniature keyboard with a red button. It doesn't work like that. Trump is saying it because, A, he probably hasn't studied it or really understood it when he was briefed up on it. But B, he's saying it because that's the most understandable thing. It's what the media understands, and it perpetuates this myth that there's a button. And the possibility is that you have a guy, if you dislike Trump, then you think that there's this ignorant, unstable guy, this ego-driven guy who's measuring his button against Kim Jong-un. That's not how it works. That is the very reason that we did this was so that we don't stumble into nuclear war. And there were elaborate checks between us and the Soviet Union. There were some close calls when nuclear forces were alerted, but it was done with the full knowledge that the other side saw nuclear forces going to the next alert level. The possibility, it's been worked out of the system that one crazy guy, one president cannot grab that briefcase and run into the bathroom and launch all the missiles. It doesn't work like that. And by the way, there's no auto launch. We don't have what's called a dead hand switch, where if the entire National Command Authority is wiped out, the missiles are auto launched. Between the orders that are transmitted electronically and the missiles actually leaving silos, bombers releasing long-range missiles, or ballistic missile submarines coming to missile depth, there is a human element. And the human element has to see a legal authority, has to see a legal order. There is no big red light in the submarine that says, hey, stop eating your kale, get to the missile room, launch. It doesn't work like that. So Trump can talk about buttons all day long. It freaks out Joy Behar. You know, I wish more people knew what I knew about this, but as long as it freaks out Joy Behar, there can't be that much downside. All right, 844-900-BUCK, 844-900-BUCK. Get on the phone. We'll discuss your winter there in the South. And in case you don't know, I'll give you a quick 2-minute version of how it goes from a presidential order to a nuclear weapon release when we come back. It is Bryan Suits filling in. Buck is back tomorrow. He's on the vacay. He'll be back. This is the Buck Sexton Show.
The battles of the past define the present. This is Buck Sexton, and starting on January 8th, 2018, you'll be able to join me on an epic journey into history, the Shields High podcast. Available on iHeartRadio, Shields High will be an exploration of the war for Western civilization as described through gripping accounts of the most pivotal moments when the Christian world and the Islamic world came into direct conflict. Shields High will be a true journey into the fight between East and West, Cross and Crescent, Crusade and Jihad. We will dig into the truth of these histories, learn about the great heroes, martyrs, villains, and traitors, and connect these legendary struggles with blood feuds and national security challenges that haunt us to this day. All the while, we will bring ourselves as close as we can to the bone-shattering charges of the front lines. Be sure to check out the Shields High podcast, and remember, it is time to awaken the iron.
Offer not valid in all states or where prohibited by law. Loans are subject to lender approval. See website for details. Need some extra cash today? Do you have bad credit or maxed out credit cards? If so, turn your radio up. 45cash.com is one of the nation's largest personal loan networks with over 50 different lenders. Now you can get a personal loan for up to $5,000 with any type of credit discreetly from your computer or smartphone and with no paperwork to send in. That's right, no paperwork whatsoever. Your cash will hit your bank account as soon as tomorrow, as our lenders have millions of dollars to lend, regardless of your credit history. Just have a checking account and a regular source of income. Go to 45cash.com and you can get the loan you need now, regardless of your credit. Go to 45cash.com from your smartphone or computer to get the cash you need. Visit 45cash.com. Type www.45cash.com directly into the address bar. That's 45cash.com. 45cash.com.
That was me clearing my throat. It is the Buck Sexton Show. Bryan Suits filling in for Buck. My home base is KFI in Los Angeles, and I won't bother you with any celebrity news today, except I will tell you this. For all of you between Los Angeles and New York who the celebrities drop their blue ice on from their private jets, you will be pleased to know that the Los Angeles District Attorney, an elected position, is working on charges for Harvey Weinstein. So stand by for 2018, everybody. So anyway, that's your news.